For centuries, people sitting at deathbeds have described the same strange moment. The dying person suddenly looks beyond the room. They speak to someone no one else can see. They gesture, smile, sometimes even reach out, as if greeting familiar companions. In modern hospitals, this is so common that experienced nurses recognize it instantly. They know when a patient begins speaking to unseen presences, death is often very near. Neurologist Peter Fenwick finds about 90% of people who die consciously have such encounters. Typically, they sense a bright light and overwhelming peace. One dramatic example, a daughter caring for her dying father heard him cry out, "Adriana, my dear, your mother is helping me to break out of this body. There is so much light here, so much peace." Research shows that deathbed visions are real and quite common. A recent review found that these experiences are consistent across different people and cultures. While they cannot be easily explained, they almost always calm and comfort the dying, often reducing their fear of death. For instance, an Encyclopedia of Angel Lore notes that such visions have been recorded since ancient times worldwide. Their main purpose seems to be to guide or invite the dying to the next stage. Remarkably, if the person is in pain, it often disappears, and they may appear to light up with a radiant glow. Medical staff and families report that dying patients usually become peaceful during these experiences. A Learn Religions article quotes hospice workers describing how doctors, nurses, and loved ones witness patients talking to and interacting with invisible presences as if angels are accompanying them. In short, both historical records and modern research confirm that many people nearing death see vivid, comforting visitors. Clinical studies back this up quantitatively. A nationwide survey of Japanese cancer patients' families found about 21% had observed deathbed visions. In India, researchers interviewing terminally ill patients reported an even higher figure. 63.3% acknowledged vivid end-of-life dreams or visions when specifically asked. A Swedish qualitative study of 18 end-of-life care professionals found 15 out of 18 had observed such visions. Why do these visions happen? Science generally sees them as events created by the brain. Changes in the brain caused by low oxygen or chemical shifts during terminal illness can trigger vivid dreams or hallucinations. Even experts agree that strong neural activity can feel very real. For example, in Christian hospice accounts, dying saints seem to see comforting presences, but one analyst notes that these experiences could simply come from the brain reacting to a body shutting down. In other words, deathbed visions may be the brain's final bursts of memory and imagination. Doctors even use terms like terminal delirium and lucid surges to describe these events, and some dementia patients regain sudden clarity before death, a puzzling phenomenon called terminal lucidity. Scientific American explains that physiological changes, like narrowing vision forming a tunnel of light, endorphins easing pain, and memory circuits producing familiar faces, can explain near-death experiences. From this view, deathbed visions are deeply human, shaped by each person's memories and beliefs, rather than proof of an afterlife. Still, purely scientific explanations don't cover everything. Many deathbed visions happen without any drugs or brain injury, and patients often describe them as feeling more real than real. Christoph Koch, a leading researcher, acknowledges that these experiences are genuinely felt, even if he assumes a natural cause. Psychologist Stephen Taylor, familiar with Buddhist and New Age ideas, admits he has no explanation for these end-of-life experiences in purely material terms. He points out that neither brain damage nor medications seem to explain clear, comforting visions of a loved one guiding the dying person. Beyond science, many religions have long explored these mysteries. In Islam, deathbed visions are seen as real, angels come to meet the soul. Classical hadith teach that as death approaches, God may show the dying person visions of the angel of death or other angels. One scholar explains that the dying person perceives the angel assigned to his soul who looks at him attentively until the soul departs. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that when someone dies with their eyes open, it is because his eyesight follows the soul. In other words, the eyes may remain fixed on what is unseen as the soul is taken. The Quran also describes this presence. When the soul of the dying man reaches the throat, we are nearer to him than you, yet you do not see. Quran 56:83-85. This shows that God and his angels are invisibly near at the moment of death. Muslim teachings hold that dying people genuinely encounter spiritual beings, angels who bring comfort or, in some cases, warning, matching the reports of visions. Some traditions even say every Muslim sees the Prophet Muhammad or Imam Ali at death, a belief specific to Shia Islam. In short, Islam regards these visions as real, caring spirits sent by God. Christian views differ, but many believers also see death as a literal welcome. Contemporary Christian writers often describe angels or Christ himself greeting the dying. For example, a Christian blog on angels and miracles notes that people worldwide often experience visions of angels appearing to help them make the transition to heaven. Author Rosemary Guiley adds that these visions beckon or command the dying to come, encouraging them with love. Pastor Billy Graham said, "God always sends angels to welcome people who have relationships with Jesus. The Bible guarantees every believer an escorted journey into the presence of Christ by the holy angels. In folk Christianity and folk Judaism, the dying sometimes see departed relatives or saints, understood as real visitations." Some theologians, however, warn that not all popular near-death stories are scriptural and may reflect the mind's creation. Still, Christian tradition generally teaches that for the faithful, death is a blessed passage, often marked by visions of angels or Christ welcoming the soul. Now, let's come towards other religions and historical patterns. While detailed studies are fewer outside the Abrahamic faiths, many stories exist. Hindu and Buddhist traditions describe an intermediate journey after death, for example, meeting Yamraj, the god of death, or passing through the bardo, the in-between state, with devas or ancestors appearing along the way. These teachings focus on the soul's journey rather than a final ending. Folktales worldwide also describe the dying seeing light, holy figures, or loved ones beckoning them forward. Modern surveys, such as mid-20th century cross-cultural studies, show that many good death accounts include visions of guides or afterlife realms, suggesting a global pattern. Early psychiatric records also noted deathbed visions. The English writer William F. Barrett collected dozens of 19th century stories, and later parapsychologist Carlos Osis and Erlander Haraldson reported that roughly half of thousands of dying patients in the US and India experienced such visions. All these perspectives, scientific, Islamic, Christian, historical, and others, explain deathbed visions differently. But they converge on one striking point. The experience is almost always positive. When patients have end-of-life visions, observers often note, "They were so peaceful," or "He went away very content." Whether one calls it a hallucination, a soul's journey, or an encounter with the beyond, the essence is the same. At life's end, human consciousness, whether from a dying brain or an immortal soul, turns towards something familiar and loving. These visions may appear as ancestral faces, angels, religious symbols, or pure light. But across cultures, they serve one purpose: easing the final journey. In the end, perhaps the simplest truth is this: all paths lead to a gentle ending. Regardless of belief, accounts agree that deathbed visions almost always feel real and bring peace. Whether they are angels sent by God, creations of the mind, or glimpses of an afterlife, they share one human truth: our last moments are often surrounded by love and light. Dying people seem to speak to unseen companions not to alarm us, but to show that the journey is not a lonely fall into nothingness. So, we can say this: At time of death, something shifts. Fear gives way to calm, and loneliness fades into presence. Whatever these visions are, they seem to remind us that death is not faced alone.